What's the number one decision? The number one decision our children will make in their adult life. The number one decision your son or daughter will make in their life is who they decide to marry, who they decide to spend or start their adult life with, who they decide to marry. And this is something that rarely gets talked about. We talk about education, we talk about college, we talk about university, we talk about money, we talk about fitness, we talk about all these things, but the most important decision that my daughter, Emery, is going to make in her life is never discussed in the school system, never talked about in polite society, and most parents, they would never bring up the topic of the most important decision our children will ever make in their life. To put it another way, the decision of who they choose to marry or spend the rest of their life with is so important that our children can crush a lot of things in life. They can crush education, college, university, build themselves an incredible lifestyle business. They can be in incredible physical and mental health. They can do a lot of things very well. But if they mess up this one decision, if our children mess up this one decision, it will wreak havoc throughout their personal and professional life and the life of your future precious grandchildren like no other decision. There is no vaccination for marrying the wrong person. There is no remedy for marrying a toxic, abusive, non-committed person. And that's just the reality. It will bleed into every part of their life. It will bleed into their mental health. It will bleed into their children. It will bleed into their business, their physical health. It is by far the most important decision our adult children can ever make. Who are they going to choose to marry and spend their life with? The thing about being a parent that I've learned over the last 9 years with my wife Krista is that my daughter Emery, who's 9 years old, she has season tickets to how a marriage should be. And it's really critical is that everything that my wife and I do, and I learned this by being a father, is my daughter has front row seats to modeling how she will look at a marriage. Especially daughters, as you may or may not know, a father's influence on a daughter is many, but the number one influence you'll have as a father on your adult daughter is she will gauge and judge all future men in her life by you. If you have a daughter, she is learning every single day, season tickets, front row seat, to how a man should treat his wife, his kids, other people, work ethic, character, integrity. And you are modeling the behavior that she is going to look for in a partner or a future husband. That's the number one impact that a father has with a daughter, is she will gauge and judge future men in her life from how you are treating your wife, even your ex-wife if you've been separated or divorced. So that is a huge, huge thing. But it goes back to the fact that our children can do so many things well, from sports to education to work to career to lifestyle. But if we don't get this one decision correct, it will bleed and destroy the rest of their life, and of course, other people as well. Your precious future grandkids as a number one. One of the things that I've noticed in terms of marriage is my younger brother David is a successful lawyer, attorney. He owns and runs his own firm, and he deals in wills, and he deals in he's a niche marketer, but one of the areas that he does a little bit of work in is divorce. And I was talking to my brother the other day, and he said to me, he goes, Michael, he says, you know, every single divorce, even though it's a small sample size, you know, he's been in the business for 10, 15 years. He says every single divorce has the same two characteristics involved. And I said, well, what is that? He says, number one, and these are in no specific order. He says, number one, arguments, fighting, anger about money, lack of money, not too much money, lack of money, which goes back to my badass principle of that it's so critical, okay, to do well financially. It puts so much pressure on a relationship when there's lack, when there's a mindset of scarcity, especially when it comes to money. So my brother says that all the divorces that he deals with as a lawyer, they all have that characteristic of the couple is fighting endlessly about money. Secondly, and surprisingly, he said to me, he said the second factor that is there 100% of the time when a couple decides to call it quits, lack of personal growth on one or both of the husband and wife. Think about that for a second. Lack of personal growth, achievement, self-improvement, either the husband, the wife, or both. And that really, I mean, makes sense, because a marriage is the ultimate relationship. And the only way a relationship can work long-term is for both people to be committed to personal and never-ending growth. Constant and never-ending improvement. So when one of the people involved in a marriage or relationship, as an example, is a person who doesn't read books, or doesn't listen to audiobooks, or doesn't listen to podcasts, or doesn't take care of themselves physically or mentally, whatever it is, if one of the people in the marriage is committed to personal improvement, reading, writing, listening, and the other person isn't, my brother says that's 100% of the two factors every single time a marriage, the couple calls it quits. Money and lack of personal growth on one or both of the husband or wife. So I think that's a message to all of us, especially as fathers, that, you know, this is something we need to be talking to our children about. They're not going to learn about the most important decision in their life at school. They're not going to learn about it on television or the internet or on the street. And they're certainly not going to learn about the most important decision in their life from, you know, the entertainment business or Hollywood. So it's very important as husbands and fathers that this is a conversation that comes up all the time. From the time our children are, you know, my daughter Emery's age, 9, even younger, all the way up till adult time. I mean, our children are, you know, 25, 30 years old before they're making the most important decision in their life. But this needs to be something that has to be emphasized as they're growing, as they're getting older, as they're becoming teenagers, as they're becoming adults. emphasizing the fact that they can do an awful lot of right. They can crush their life up to that point, but this decision will have more impact, either negatively or positively, than any and all things that we've worked on up until that point. You're one of those parents who wants to super accelerate your kid. You've had them in sports, you've had them in piano, you've had them in chess, you've put them in schools, you've spent time with them, you've read with them, the whole thing. But the number one most important decision that they're going to ever make is who or who they don't choose to marry and spend the rest of their life with. So it's an interesting fact that I read the other day. A friend of mine said, he sent it over to me, he said, parents that do call it quits, parents that actually do sign the papers and divorce, 52% of mums and dads with children that divorce openly admit they regret the decision 5 years later. Think about that. After 5 years of being divorced and separated as a couple, as a team, over 52%, actually 52% of couples regret the decision to separate and divorce. So my message as a husband and father is stay married. Stay married. For the benefit of your children. I don't buy into any of that horse shit about, well, it's better, it's better that they're apart now. When parents separate and parents divorce, there's many negative effects on our children. One of them, of course, is personal blame for the separation, anxiety, depression. There'll be two sets of rules, if there's any rules. All of a sudden, time is divided at least by 50%. And down the road, what have you modeled? You've modeled, okay, your daughter, your son, your children have had a front row seat, season tickets to a marriage that did not work out. Now, I'm not delusional to the fact that many relationships are not salvageable. But even relationships that do end, marriages that do end, it's very important that we as leaders at least work on continually developing that relationship when children are still involved. In other words, your relationship with your ex, if that's your situation. So very, very important that you work on that and keeping that as civil as humanly possible. A friend of mine said to me the other day, he was reading an article about, he said, marriage, Michael, they used to say that it was a 50-50 proposition. And he said, in today's world, he says, that no longer works anymore. Marriage, in my experience, Krista and I are celebrating our 11th wedding anniversary this weekend. We were married on the shores in Dominican Republic with all of our family. We flew in for the week 11 glorious years ago. And as a team, we've been together as a couple for the last 16 years. So we've been together for, a few minutes. And my friend was talking about this. Marriage is not a 50-50 proposition. Marriage is a 100 proposition. And I can tell you from my experience, my struggles in marriage, my ups, my downs, things that have worked in my marriage, things that have not worked, things that I've learned as a husband and a father. The biggest indicator, the biggest aha moment for me in the last 2 years has been that marriage has now transitioned to me, the last 2 years with my wife, Krista, into a 100% proposition. And let me explain in the real world what I'm talking about here is there's no silos in a solid marriage or relationship. And silos to me are when you have, separation in a relationship. Okay, I do the business, my wife looks after the house, I pay the bills, I do the homework. These are silos. And what's interesting is the longer that I have been married, the longer I have realized that 100-100 proposition means there are no silos in marriage, in a successful one. And in today's world, especially 2022, it's critical that we understand that we're always modeling marriage for our children. They do have that front row season ticket seat. And what are they seeing is most important, because when our sons and daughters do eventually leave home, they have had basically an 18 to 20 year seminar on marriage, relationships, and parenting. Whether we're aware of it or not doesn't make any difference. What's most important is they're always watching. So it's important in a marriage, in my opinion, is that we're all participating in home chores. I mean, in my house, I'm the dishwasher. My wife is an incredible chef and cook, so we're always eating amazing meals. There's certain things that I do with Emery. I do a lot of the driving, which I enjoy. I do a lot of the sports, which I enjoy. And Krista does some of the piano and the chess and things like this. But what's as important is that we're a team and we work together with this 100% proposition. There's no more 50-50. My marriage went to a whole new level 2 years ago when I decided I was no longer going to do what I said. I called it protecting. I called it protecting my wife from things that she didn't need to know. And a lot of it was business related. She didn't need to know that. She only needs to know the good stuff. She only needs to know the good news. She's busy. She doesn't need to know about my day, the adversity I've gone through. And when you think about it, I was a fool for a long time in terms of, are you kidding me? My wife has been with me for 16 years. She knows the good, she knows the bad, and yes, she knows the ugly. So what I was doing with this 50-50 proposition, with the silos in my life, I didn't involve Krista in any of the financials in my business. I didn't tell her, how the insurance company was doing. I didn't tell her how the barbershop was doing. I didn't have her paying any of the bills. I didn't have her involved in my marketing and my promotion, all these types of things. And it was amazing because it was the ultimate level of disrespect for her, because I used to always preach, we're a team, we're a team, we're a team. But I was long on style for many years and short on substance. And what I mean by that is I talked a better game than I played it in my personal marriage. It wasn't 100-100 proposition. And thankfully, I'm so glad that I learned this and I've turned it around, that I'm modeling this now for my daughter Emery, where my wife Krista is involved in every part of my badass world. She now knows, the financials of all my different companies. The last few years of our hockey team, she was involved with the hockey team. She was involved with the barbershop. She was involved with our fundraising for these charities. She's involved with my masterminds when I put on live events now with my coaching, my Badass Brotherhood. She's the person who edits my book. She's the person who edits my newsletters. She watches my videos. She attends some of my trainings. And I've basically gone from shutting her out of business and things that I assume she wouldn't be interested in. Never assume. Never assume. This is your secret weapon. This is your best friend. And so now I just invite. I invite Krista to attend my trainings. I invite her to, edit my book. I invite her to edit my newsletters. I invite her to masterminds. I invite her to seminars. invite, invite, invite. And one of the big things that I've done in the last few years is I started inviting my wife onto my weekend walks. As you know, I walk 4 miles a day and that's me, solitude. I'm out there, no technology. But on Saturdays and especially Sundays, it's a habit where Krista and I walk together at least on a Sunday, and we'll go 5 miles and we'll just walk and talk, walk and talk, walk and talk. And this is one of the things that I have really recommended to my world building elite world builders in my coaching society, my 8-week coaching program, where start inviting your kids, inviting your teenagers, inviting your wife to things, and whether they come or not is totally up to them, but you're showing respect by inviting. We're not begging, we're not asking, we're not military, you got to do this, especially with our teenagers. Invite, invite, invite. Would you like to drive to work? Would you like a drive to school? Would you like to come for a walk with me? Would you like to go out to lunch? Would you like to go out to breakfast? Would you like to, watch this video I'm watching? Would you like to watch this podcast? Invite, invite. Would you like to go to the gym with me? Invite, invite, invite. So that's the 100% proposition has been my change to inviting my wife to do everything with me. And then as an intelligent adult, I'm showing respect for her, but she's also able to say, I'm not going to do that, and that's great, but thank you for the invite. I'm going to take you up on that invite, but I never thought, my wife, when I started inviting her, she was like falling off her chair. She's like, I would love to do that. I would love to do that. And it just went on from there. And all of a sudden, it's like Nick Saban at Alabama, where Miss Terry, his wife, is in charge of Nick's charitable Nick's Kids Foundation, which is a huge, huge part of the Alabama program. But like Miss Terry said, she goes, if I wasn't involved with the football program, if I wasn't involved with, her husband's charitable part of the program, she goes, we wouldn't spend any time together. So this is back to my principle of seamless living, where work and personal life don't need to be separate. They can be seamless. In other words, we involve our best friend and our secret weapon, in part of our business. My wife attending masterminds, my wife booking hotels, the things that she wants to do. I didn't ask her, I invited her to do these things. My wife she's a former school teacher. She loves to edit and critique my newsletters, my book, any of my writing. She likes to edit videos, all this kind of stuff. So involving them in things that they're interested in, we do that by inviting, inviting, inviting. So it all goes back to modeling the behavior that you want your kids to see growing up. And what do they see when they see your marriage? What do they see? What are you selling? What are we selling as husbands and fathers? What are we selling to our children? Because they have front row seats. Now, I wanted to share this before I go. I got to head to actually Fort Lauderdale. My daughter Emery is in her first horse riding competition in this weekend in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm going to be driving up to join Krista and her later. So I wanted to share this card, and these are these white recipe cards that I use all the time. I tell you, get these and use your green Sharpies and your red Sharpies. I use these to write down ideas that I get when I'm reading every day. I literally have 6 feet of these cards just here in Florida over the last 3.5 months. But here's another thing I've been using these recipe cards for, and I got them everywhere, all over the house, is on our anniversary, I was getting up in the dark, I was drinking my lemon water, and I was getting ready for my morning walk, and what did I do? I decided to write this out. And all it was is it's just a happy anniversary to Krista. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. I love you, Michael, that kind of stuff, right? So I left this on the kitchen counter because she gets up about half an hour after I do. And I left this simple, ugly card on the counter on our anniversary, which was a day ago. And literally, Krista, we've been out to dinner. We've had a family celebration. You know, she went shopping. We did the flowers, all of that kind of stuff. But the thing that she keeps coming back to, the thing that she keeps thanking me for at night, like we do our gratitude before bed, and you know, this has been 2 days, and the thing she keeps talking about, the thing she carries around now, the thing she's leaving here and there, is that card I just showed you. She doesn't mention the clothes. She mentioned the dinner one time. The flowers are the flowers. But here is this ugly card that I wrote in Sharpie marker on the morning of our anniversary, and it's all that she's been talking about for 2 days. And once again, just an amazing reminder of it's important that we do things with our heart and our soul. I have a badass millionaire insurance agent in my world building, and he literally told me when I had him on the phone for qualifying to see if he would fit in. And this guy, okay, has been writing a note, a handwritten note like this on one of these white cards. You get them at Staples, for God's sakes. I buy them like 500 at a time. And he told me on this, he said he's been married to his wife. They're best friends, like really best friends, no BS. And he said to me, he goes, Michael, my wife works outside the business. He has the insurance agency, and she works in this job that she wants to retire from. And eventually she wants to work her final 5 years of her career with him in the agency. And he said, man, she's my secret weapon. But he says, Michael, for 11 straight years, he's missed one time in 11 years. He goes, I write a handwritten Sharpie note to my wife, and I put it in her lunch. She makes her lunch and she takes it to work. She works in an office, in a cubicle. So anyways, he says every single day for 11 years, all but one day, she opens up her lunch and here is this note. And she knows the note is there. And he says that's the number one thing in his marriage, he says, that has just continued to grow that relationship, to show respect, to show levels of integrity, and just to show up like nobody else, like no other husband is doing that. And I can relate to that as far as not at that level, but just the power of handwritten thank yous, handwritten cards, and you know, anniversary notes like this. I usually get, you know, a fancy card for Krista, and we go to dinner and all that kind of stuff. But this year, just the other day, I decided to write this ugly card as part of the other package, and it's the only thing she talks about. So I'm going to be taking my my colleagues' advice, and I have these cards sitting around my world all the time. They're everywhere. They're on every table. And I'm going to start writing a handwritten card like that. Some of them will be funny, some of them will be serious, some of them will be in red, some will be in black, some of them will be in green Sharpie. And every day I'm going to write out a card for Krista. I hope she's not watching this video. She's at the horse thing, so she won't be. And I'm also going to do one for my daughter, Emery. And every day I walk into Emery's bedroom. This is my big reason why. I get to see my reason why every day. I get to walk in and she's in bed reading. At 5:59 in the morning, she's in bed reading. And I'm going to start handing her these cards. And basically, the card is just going to say something that I appreciate and love about her every day. Nothing more difficult than that. Some of them I'm going to make her laugh. Some are going to be serious. And basically, I'm just going to write her a physical card every day and hand it to her when she's in bed reading in the morning. I don't care what she does with them. I don't care if she puts them up on the wall, but I'm going to start doing that as her father. And I will let you know how that goes. That's going to take me 2 minutes. 2 minutes of my morning routine. When I'm drinking my lemon water, I can do that. And same thing for Krista. It's going to take me maybe 60 seconds. And I can just write her a quick note about something I appreciate. There's no text and there's no email that can accomplish those types of things. And I'm going to leave that on the counter because I'm first up. And every day when Krista gets up to start her day and walks in the kitchen, that note is going to be there 7 days a week. And once again, I'm going to keep it real simple. But I've already got the cards placed out, so it's just like my running shoes and my t-shirt and everything else, is I have all the stuff. I have all the stuff out, So now it's all about easy execution, simple execution, not easy. Every day, get up, drink some water, put on my shoes, and write a couple of cards that's going to change my relationships, improve my relationships with my best friends, secret weapon, and my magic. Emery and Krista are my magic. So that's it for today. 100%. Okay, no more of this 50-50 stuff. And just let's start teaching our children the most important decision they'll ever make is who they decide to marry or to spend their life with. And let's make sure that they know how important that decision is going in. That's it for today. Michael McLean. If you haven't got a copy of my book, you can remedy that disaster at nobullbook.com. And if you would like some free webinar training, I have a world building webinar at World Building Webinar. It's a really intelligent name, .com, worldbuildingwebinar.com. And that's a training I did a few weeks ago. It's advanced stuff, 10 secret ways for you to build your own world, personal and business. And you can check that out, the link below, as well as my book. And if you're interested in applying and being put on a waiting list for my next 8-week Badass Millionaire coaching program, Society, my brotherhood of elite top 1% men, you can do that at badassmillionaire.com/apply. So those are the 3 ways you can get more information and apply to work with me personally. That's it for today. I'm off to Fort Lauderdale and looking forward to Emery's very first competition, her first real competition. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll talk to you tomorrow on Mother's Day. Until then, be relentless.